Kiera Knightley, Ronald McDonald, and Johnny Depp. Sounds like a strange bunch, but they have one thing in common, and that is defamation and libel lawsuits. All three of those folks, well, McDonald's in the case of Ronald, have been involved in huge, massive libel and defamation cases. And these can be massive cases. They can be huge. They can get tons of publicity, and they could potentially sink companies. That's why it is so important that you pay attention and that you understand defamation and libel. I'm Andrew Esquire, and this is the Legal Mindset, where we give you an unfair advantage. And today, we're gonna explain exactly what defamation and libel means and go into these cases. We're gonna look at Keira and her crazy case. We're gonna look at the McDonald's case. We're gonna look at Johnny Depp, and we're gonna see exactly how these cases played out. At its core, defamation and libel are about not true statements. They are about things that are false. That is the definition, is that it has to be something that is not true. And that not truth has to harm someone's reputation, has to do damage to their reputation. So let's start by talking about Keira. Let's say you have Kiera Knightley and somebody accuses her of wearing a hideous purple dress. Well, it turns out that the dress wasn't purple. It was in fact blue. She was wearing a blue dress. Well, if in the case of the mistaken dress, that really doesn't hurt her reputation. She can't sue under that. That's why there's that element, that piece that has to hurt the reputation. It can't just be something that's false. It has to hurt them. Let's look at the difference between defamation and libel. Now, you often hear these terms interchanged. In a lot of countries, for example, outside the US, you might just call them one thing. You might just call them defamation or might just call them libel. But in the US, the difference is how the communication takes place. So for example, a spoken communication, an oral statement, like you might hear in public or on TV, that's defamation. So oral statements, spoken statements, defamation. Anything in writing is libel. So those tweets, they could be libel. Same with anything in a newspaper. Not that anybody reads a newspaper anymore, but that is the key difference. Just remember that. And if you ever go on Google and look up famous defamation cases, you're gonna get libel cases. So just understand that difference and know that you've learned better than most things on Google. One thing you might notice about defamation and libel is that when you go to Google, when you do look up those famous cases, you notice there's a lot of celebrities, there's a lot of public figures. Well, does that mean that only public figures can file defamation and libel cases? No. In fact, anybody can. Anybody can file a defamation or a libel case. If there's ever a false statement made about you and it harms you, it causes you to lose a job, to lose a business opportunity, or really to lose anything of value, maybe a good deal, that is enough for a libel or defamation lawsuit. That is enough in terms of damages. You can proceed on that. So what is one thing that is an absolute defense? Let's say you're charged with defamation. What's an absolute defense to it? Well, the truth. So, for example, if you said, Andrew, you are freakishly tall, and I get really, really mad about that. I can't do anything about it because in fact, at 6'6", I am freakishly tall. That is a fact. I cannot sue you for defamation based on my height. But it's something that has to be clear. It's something that has to be clearly true. Let's use the example of Kiera Knightley. Let's get back to Keira and her issue. So what happened to Keira? The Daily Mail accused her of having anorexia. They accused her of having that condition. And in fact, when they published an article on anorexia, they showed a picture of Kiera Knightley in a bikini. And there was a mother who made a statement in the article that said, if pictures like this picture of Keira were published, they should have a health warning saying that that is not normal. That is not a normal weight. That is not a normal way to look. Well, they did not have Keira's permission to publish this. So Keira sued them. She sued them for libel, and she won. She won because it was a false statement and it harmed her. And she took the damages and, in a very, very nice gesture, donated them to a charity for eating disorders. So in that case, they published something that was false and she got those damages for that. Now, there's other cases, once again, where there's more of a gray area. And this brings us to our friend Ronald McDonald, the Mickey D's. So there was a couple that would frequently protest McDonald's. They would always go out there and say they were anti-McDonald's. They said they had horrible business practices, and most importantly, that their food was unhealthy. That's right, they said McDonald's was unhealthy. I know, that's crazy shocking and totally unbelievable. So they went to court. McDonald's sued the couple. Guess what happened? McDonald's actually, in part, won. Now, McDonald's actually had to, in court, acknowledge that some of its food is unhealthy, but they did win their libel case against the couple. Now, that decision was extremely criticized because it was unfair and harsh to the couple. But the court said that the scope of their attack on McDonald's harmed McDonald's reputation. So once again, a big corporation can still prevail over the little people in these cases. Let's turn to the case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. You've probably heard all about this, and you might have even heard that Johnny Depp lost his libel case. And that's extremely shocking. That should be very surprising because the UK is actually a great place to sue for defamation in general. There are defamation tourists that go to the UK simply to sue for defamation and libel because it is easier in the UK. It is much easier to sue in the UK. And why is that? Why is it so easy to sue in the UK? Well, that's because of the burden of proof. The burden of proof, if you might remember, is who has to prove they were right. Is it the person who is accused or the person who is doing the accusing? Is it the plaintiff or the defendant? Where is the burden of proof? In the United States, the accuser has to actually prove that it was libel, has to prove there was a false statement. The burden is on the person bringing the claim. The UK is completely the other way around. The accused, the person who is accused of defamation and libel, has to prove their innocence. They're essentially guilty until proven innocent. That's why the UK is so friendly to defamation and libel suits. And in fact, they also allow non-UK residents to bring suits in the UK. I know, that's insane. And that's why Johnny Depp was able to go there. They were able to actually go to the UK and sue. And many other people have brought cases against UK entities instead of US entities in order to gain an unfair advantage. Kate Hudson actually sued the British version of the National Enquirer because she had the option. She was also, like Kiera Knightley, accused of having an eating disorder, which is something that damages your reputation. Now, that is something that is crazy bad for an individual. So she brought the case in England, in the UK, rather than the US because of that good burden of proof, and she won. She prevailed. This is a huge difference between the UK and the US. And right now, I'm gonna give a little shout out to my guy, Brian from the Frugal BC channel for helping me with some info on the Johnny Depp case, as well as the differences between the US and the UK. Now, regardless of whether you are in the US or the UK, there is one thing that is always wrong, that is never okay. That is accusing someone else of being a criminal. That is a red line. That is a danger zone. So, remember Casey Anthony? Well, before her trial concluded, if someone was to say she was a baby killer, to show her on a newspaper with the headline, baby killer, well, that damages a reputation. That hurts somebody. So she could have turned around and sued them for defamation and for libel. Someone's accusing you of a crime that you have not yet been convicted for. Even if you're at trial for that crime, it is not okay. One thing you do have to remember though, is that there's a slightly lower standard. There are certain First Amendment protections for celebrities and politicians and people who are making fun of them. So see comedians, late night comedians, making fun of Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any political or public figure, that is widely allowed. There's a little bit more leeway when it comes to parody and making fun of people. So that might not be defamation, but you certainly don't want to ever accuse somebody of a crime. If you do have a crime, it's critical that you realize how to get that off your record so you are never accused of anything, which is why you need to check out my video, Erase Your Crimes.